Welcome to Midnight Truth, where peaceful stories guide you into the perfect night's rest. Before we start, take a moment to like this video and subscribe. It helps me bring more soothing stories to you and others who need them. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you. Now, find your cozy spot, close your eyes, and let's begin this calming journey together. I pulled up to the house just as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky a bruised purple. The moving truck rattled behind me, stuffed with boxes of everything I owned, which wasn't much anymore. The divorce had left me with half a life, half a bank account, and a fresh start I didn't ask for. This old place on Elmwood Street was supposed to be my reset button. A cheap rental in a sleepy town I'd never heard of until 3 weeks ago. The realtor had called it cozy and full of character. I'd call it a dump, but beggars can't be choosers. The house loomed ahead, 2 stories of weathered gray wood, with a sagging porch and windows like tired eyes. The yard was a mess of overgrown weeds, and the mailbox tilted like it was drunk. I grabbed my duffel bag from the passenger seat and stepped out, my boots crunching on gravel. The air smelled faintly of damp earth and something sour I couldn't place. A breeze rattled the bare branches of a twisted oak out front, and the house groaned as if it were stretching awake. Old places make noise, I told myself. It's normal. Inside, the air was stale, thick with dust that danced in the dim light of a single bulb hanging from the foyer ceiling. The floorboards creaked under my weight, loud enough to make me wince. I flicked on more lights. Some worked, some didn't, and started hauling boxes in from the truck. The living room had a chipped fireplace. The kitchen had a leaky faucet, and the stairs to the second floor squeaked like a chorus of mice. Upstairs, I picked the bigger bedroom, the one with a view of the street. The mattress I'd ordered was already there, leaning against the wall, still wrapped in plastic. Good enough for tonight. By 9, I was sweaty, starving, and surrounded by unpacked boxes. I microwaved a frozen burrito and ate it standing at the counter, listening to the house settle. A low hum came from somewhere, maybe the pipes, and the fridge buzzed like it was annoyed to be awake. Outside, crickets chirped, but every so often, the sound cut off, like something scared them quiet. I shook it off. New place, new noises. I'd get used to it. The next morning, I met Mrs. Hargrove. She shuffled over from next door, a tiny woman with white hair and a cane that tapped the ground like a metronome. She carried a plate of cookies wrapped in foil, her smile all teeth and wrinkles. "Welcome to the neighborhood," she said, handing me the plate. "You're brave, moving into that house." I laughed, brushing it off. "It's not so bad. Need some work, but I've got time." Her smile faltered, just for a second. "Oh, it's not the work. It's the history. Folks around here don't stay long in that place. Last tenant, young fellow like you, left in the middle of the night. Said he heard things. Footsteps mostly. Ran out babbling about curses." She chuckled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Old houses, though. They've got stories." I nodded, not sure what to say. "Thanks for the cookies. I'll be fine." She tapped her cane and turned to go. "Hope so. Just don't listen too hard at night." Her words stuck with me as I unpacked that day. The house did have a way of talking. Creaks, pops, the occasional thud from upstairs. I told myself it was the wind, the foundation shifting. Anything but what she'd hinted at. By evening, I'd set up the basics. Couch, TV, bed. I cracked a beer and sank into the couch, the hum of the house blending with the drone of some late-night show. Exhaustion hit me hard, and I dragged myself upstairs, collapsing onto the mattress without bothering to shower. That's when I heard it, a heavy thump, like a boot hitting the floor right above my head. I froze, staring at the ceiling. The attic, nothing up there but dust and cobwebs. I checked. Another thump, slower this time, deliberate. My heart kicked up, but I forced it down. Old houses settle. That's all. I rolled over, pulled the blanket tight, and shut my eyes. The thump stopped. Just my imagination, I thought. Just the house. But as I drifted off, I could have sworn I heard something else. A faint whisper, too soft to make out, coming from the walls. The first week in the house passed in a blur of cardboard boxes and takeout containers. I started my new job at the hardware store on Monday, a gig I'd landed through a friend of a friend. It was simple: stock shelves, help customers. Try not to think about how I'd gone from a cushy office job to hauling paint cans in a town where nobody knew my name. The hours were long but predictable, and I liked the rhythm of it. Wake up at 6, coffee, work, home by 5. Routine was my anchor after everything fell apart. The house, though, it didn't fit the routine. Every day, I'd come back to find something off. A cabinet door I'd sworn I'd closed was ajar. The faucet dripped even after I tightened it. Once, I found a light on upstairs when I knew I'd turned everything off before leaving. I blamed fatigue, the kind that makes you second-guess your own memory. Old houses have quirks, I kept telling myself. They're not alive. Nights were the hardest to ignore. The creaking floorboards got louder after dark, like the house was pacing while I tried to sleep. That sour smell I'd noticed on day 1 lingered, drifting through rooms without a source. And the noises, God, the noises. Thumps in the attic, a low hum that vibrated in my chest. Scratches like fingernails on wood. I'd lie there, eyes on the ceiling, telling myself it was rats or the wind. But the thumps had weight, like someone heavy was walking up there, and the scratches came in bursts, too rhythmic to be random. Thursday night, I met another neighbor. I was taking out the trash when a guy waved from across the street, mid-40s, scruffy beard, wearing a flannel shirt that screamed, "I've lived here forever." He crossed over, hands in his pockets, and introduced himself as Tom. "Settling okay?" he asked, glancing at the house like it might bite him. "Yeah, mostly," I said. "It's a fixer-upper, but it's home." He nodded, but his eyes stayed on the windows. "Heard you got it cheap." Not surprised. Place has a reputation. I raised an eyebrow. Mrs. Hargrove mentioned something about the last tenant. Footsteps, curses, that kind of thing. Tom snorted, but it wasn't a laugh. "She tell you about the guy before him?" "Older fella. Lived here maybe 6 months. Used to sit on that porch muttering to himself. One day, he just took off, left everything behind. Cops found his car a mile out of town, but no sign of him. Folks say he saw something in there. Something that wouldn't let him sleep." I shifted, the trash bag suddenly heavy in my hand. "It's an old house. People make up stories." "Maybe," Tom said, "but I'd keep the lights on if I were you." He clapped me on the shoulder and walked off, leaving me staring at the dark windows. That night, I couldn't shake his words. I double-checked the locks, turned on the TV for noise, and cracked another beer. The house groaned around me, louder than usual, like it was annoyed I was still there. I fell asleep on the couch, the hum of static from the TV blending with the hum in the walls. I woke up at 3 a.m., heart pounding. The TV was off, pitch black, no power. The room was freezing, my breath fogging in the dim streetlights spilling through the curtains. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Heavy, deliberate, coming from upstairs. Thump, thump, thump. Right above me, moving toward the stairs. I sat up, gripping the couch arm. "Hello." My voice sounded small, stupid. No answer, just more footsteps, slower now, like whatever was new I'd heard. I grabbed my phone, dead, even though I'd charged it. The cold bit into my skin, and that sour smell hit me hard, sharp and rotten. The footsteps stopped at the top of the stairs. Silence. I held my breath, waiting, then a creak, soft like a weight shifting. I told myself it was a house settling, but my gut screamed otherwise. I stayed there, frozen, until the first gray light of dawn crept in. The cold faded, the smell eased, and the house went quiet. I didn't sleep after that. I just sat there, staring at the stairs, wondering what the hell I'd moved into. Work became my escape. After that night on the couch, I started leaving the house at dawn, gulping coffee in the truck just to stay awake. The hardware store smelled like sawdust and metal, a clean break from the sour stink that clung to the house. I'd stack shelves, chat with customers, and pretend everything was fine. But every shift ended the same way. Driving back to Elmwood Street, watching that gray shape loom closer, knowing I couldn't afford to leave. I tried to rationalize the footsteps. Maybe it was a raccoon in the attic, or pipes banging from bad plumbing. I even climbed up there one afternoon, armed with a flashlight and a broom. The attic was empty, dusty beams, a cracked window letting in a sliver of light. No sign of animals or anything else. Just cold air and that faint hum. Stronger up there, like a pulse in the walls. I swept the broom around, half expecting to hit something, but it was just me and the shadows. Still, I nailed the trapdoor shut. Better safe than sorry. Back downstairs, I noticed the cold spots. They'd pop up randomly. A patch by the kitchen sink where my fingers went numb. A corner of the living room that made me shiver even with a sweatshirt on. The thermostat read 68, but those spots felt like winter. I'd walk through one and catch a whiff of that sour smell, sharp and fleeting. Old houses have drafts, I told myself. It's nothing. Friday night, I decided to ignore it all. I ordered pizza, cracked a beer, and put on a movie. Something loud with explosions to drown out the creaks. The house fought back. The floorboards groaned louder. The hum turned into a buzz that drilled into my skull, and the lights flickered every time a car passed outside. I turned the volume up, stubborn, pretending I didn't hear the scratches starting up again. Short, quick bursts from behind the walls. Around midnight, the power cut out. The TV died mid-scene, plunging the room into silence. I cursed, fumbling for my phone. The battery was at 10%. Plenty to use the flashlight. I swept the beam around, shadows jumping across the walls. The air turned icy, my breath puffing out in clouds. Then I heard it, a low, raspy sound, like someone exhaling right behind me. I spun around. Nothing, just a couch, the empty pizza box, the dark hallway leading to the stairs. The sound came again, closer, from a hallway this time. My skin prickled, every hair standing up. I aimed the light down the hall. Empty, but the cold hit me like a wall, and that sour smell rolled over me, thick enough to gag on. Who's there? I croaked, my voice shaking. No answer, just that raspy breath, steady and slow. I took a step back, bumping the coffee table. The breathing stopped. Silence pressed in, heavy and wrong. Then a thud, loud, sharp, from upstairs. Another. Footsteps again, pacing the bedroom right above me. I bolted to the kitchen, grabbed a knife from the drawer, and stood there, phone in one hand, blade in the other. The footsteps kept going back and forth, like someone or something was waiting for me to come up. My phone buzzed, screen flickering, then died completely. The light snapped back on, blinding me. The footsteps stopped. The cold eased. The smell faded. I didn't move for a long time, just stood there clutching the knife, staring at the stairs. When I finally checked the bedroom, it was empty, bed made, windows shut, no sign of anything. But the air felt heavy, like someone had just left. I slept with the lights on that night, the knife under my pillow, listening to every creak, every whisper the house threw at me. Saturday morning, I saw Mrs. Hargrove watering her flowers. I marched over, still wired from no sleep. You said the last tenant heard footsteps. What else did he say? She paused, her eyes flicking to the house. Oh, he rambled a lot. Said the cold followed him. Said he felt watched like eyes in the walls. Poor man was a wreck when he left. Anything about who lived here before? I pressed. She frowned, tapping her cane. Long time ago, there was a man named Elias Crow. Strange fella, kept himself. People said he dabbled in things he shouldn't. Books, rituals, that sort. Died in that house, they say. Never found a body, though. She shrugged. Just rumors. I nodded, thanked her, and walked back, her words sinking in. Elias Crow. Rituals. The house didn't feel like just a house anymore. It felt like a trap. Sleep stopped being an option. After that night with a knife, I started napping in fits. 30 minutes here, an hour there, always with one eye open. The house wouldn't let me rest. The footsteps came every night now, pacing the bedroom or thudding in the attic, even with the trapdoor nailed shut. The cold spots spread, lingering longer, and that sour smell stuck to everything. My clothes, my skin, the air I breathed. I'd catch myself holding my breath, waiting for the next sound. The next sign I wasn't alone. Work noticed. My boss, a gruff guy named Hank, pulled me aside Monday morning. "You look like hell," he said, tossing me a rag to wipe the sweat off my face. "Everything okay at home?" "Yeah, just adjusting." I lied. "Old house, loud pipes." He grunted, unconvinced, but let it go. I threw myself into the job harder, lifting lumber, rearranging stock, anything to keep my mind off Elmwood Street. But every shift ended the same. Back to the house, back to the noises, back to that gnawing feeling I made a mistake moving in. Tuesday afternoon, I snapped. I couldn't keep pretending it was nothing. Mrs. Hargrove's story about Elias Crow stuck with me. Rituals, no body, a house with a reputation. I needed answers. After work, I hit the library downtown, a squat brick building that smelled like mildew and old paper. The librarian, a bored woman with glasses on a chain, pointed me to the local history section. I dug through yellowed newspapers and town records, looking for anything on Crow or the house. It took an hour, but I found it. A grainy article from 1952. Local recluse Elias Crow missing, presumed dead. The piece was short. Crow lived alone at 17 Elmwood, known for odd behavior, shunned by neighbors. Rumors swirled about unnatural studies and late-night visitors who weren't quite human. He vanished one winter, leaving the house empty. No body, no explanation. The article ended with a line that made my stomach twist. Residents report strange noises in the property since his disappearance. I photocopied it and kept searching. In a dusty ledger of property deeds, I found the house listed under Crow's name until 1953, when it was sold off cheap. The next owners didn't stay long. 6 months, a year, never more than 2. The pattern repeated up to now. My hands shook as I closed the book. This wasn't just an old house. It was his house. Back home, I couldn't sit still. The article burned a hole in my pocket, and Mrs. Hargrove's words echoed. Books, rituals, things he shouldn't have touched. I started tearing through the place, looking for anything Crow might have left. I checked closets, tapped walls for hollow spots, even pried up a loose floorboard in the kitchen. Nothing but dust and spiders. Then I remembered the attic. I'd only glanced up there, too creeped out to linger, armed with a crowbar and a flashlight. I climbed the stairs, the house creaking like it was warning me off. The trapdoor nails popped out with a screech, and I shoved it open, dust raining down. The air up there was thick, cold, that sour stench hitting me full force. I swung the light around, empty like before, but the hum was louder, vibrating in my teeth. In the far corner, tucked under a beam, I saw it. A small wooden box, blackened with age, carved with weird symbols that twisted like snakes. My pulse raced as I pried it open. Inside was a journal, leather-bound, pages yellow and brittle. The handwriting was spidery, cramped, dated 1951. I flipped to the first entry. October 3rd. The voices started tonight. They whispered from the walls, promising power if I listened. I begun the rites, as the book instructs. The door must open. I stopped reading, my throat dry. Footsteps thudded below me, slow, heavy, coming up the stairs. I slammed the box shut, clutching it as I scrambled down, the trapdoor banging behind me. The house was silent again, but the cold wrapped around me like a hand. Whatever Crow had started, it wasn't over. I didn't sleep that night. The journal sat on the kitchen table, its black box like a bomb I didn't dare touch again. The house felt alive, watching me. Every creak, every thud, every gust of wind rattling the windows made me jump. The cold spots were constant now, pooling around my feet, brushing my neck like icy fingers. That sour smell soaked into everything, sharp and rancid, like something dead had crawled into the walls. I cracked the journal open again at midnight, too wired to ignore it. The entries were short, erratic, penned by Elias Crow over months. His words pulled me in, even as my gut screamed to burn the damn thing. October 10th, 1951. The rites are working. Shadows move where they shouldn't. The book says blood is the key. Mine for now. The voices grow louder, clearer. They want more. November 2nd. I saw it tonight. A shape in the mirror, tall, eyeless. It spoke my name. The door is cracking open. I can feel it under the house. Waiting. December 15th. The footsteps started. Heavy, always at night. They're not mine. I've locked the basement. But it doesn't matter. It's here. I shouldn't have listened. The last entry was undated, scrawled like he'd been in a hurry. There in the walls. I opened it too wide. No turning back. The rest of the pages were blank, stained with brown smudges. Old blood, maybe. I slammed it shut, my hands trembling. Rituals. Blood. A door. What the hell had Crow done? The house answered me. A low whisper hissed through the room. Not words, just sound like static mixed with breath. It came from everywhere, the walls, the ceiling, the floor. I grabbed a knife from the counter, spinning around, but there was nothing to fight. The whisper grew, splitting into voices, overlapping, too faint to understand. My name slipped through the noise, soft and sharp. Mark. I dropped the knife, stumbled back. The lights flickered, dimming to a sickly yellow. The whisper stopped, replaced by footsteps, slow, deliberate, descending the stairs. Thump, thump, thump. I froze, staring at the hallway. The air turned frigid, my breath fogging in front of me. The sour smell hit like a punch, rotting and thick. A shadow stretched across the wall, tall, warped, not quite human. It moved as the footsteps did, edging closer. I bolted for the front door, fumbling with the lock. The shadow stopped at the hallway's end, just out of sight. The whisper started again, louder, angrier, chanting something I couldn't make out. The doorknob turned, cold metal biting my skin, and I yanked it open, spilling onto the porch. The night air was warm, clean, a shock after the house's grip. I stood there, panting, staring back at the open door. The shadow was gone. The whispers faded. The light steadied. But I felt it, eyes on me, heavy and unblinking, from somewhere inside. I didn't go back in that night. I slept in the truck, parked down the street, the journal locked in the glove box. Dawn broke gray and heavy, and I watched the house from a distance. It looked normal, tired, old, sagging, but I knew better now. Crow had opened something, and it wasn't just in the basement. It was everywhere. Wednesday morning, I called in sick. Hank grumbled, but let it slide. I drove to the coffee shop, the journal under my arm, and read more. Crow mentioned a book guiding him, symbols he'd carved, a door he'd found. I needed to find that door, or destroy it. But the thought of going back and made my stomach lurch. The whispers knew my name. The footsteps followed me. Whatever Crow had let loose, it wasn't done with me yet. I couldn't avoid the house forever. By Wednesday afternoon, my back ached from sleeping in the truck, and my clothes stank of sweat and coffee. I had to go back. Had to figure out what Crow meant by the door. The journal gnawed at me, its pages whispering secrets I didn't want to hear, but couldn't ignore. If there was a way to stop this, whatever this was, it started with finding what he'd found. I pulled up to the house at dusk, the sky a dull orange streaked with clouds. The place looked quiet, almost innocent, but my skin crawled as I stepped onto the porch. The front door creaked open, and the sour smell hit me like a wave, stronger than ever. The air inside was cold, heavy, like walking into a freezer. I gripped a flashlight and a hammer from the truck, pathetic weapons, but better than nothing. The journal mentioned the basement. Crow had locked it, written about something under the house. I'd barely glanced down there when I moved in, just a narrow staircase behind a door in the kitchen, leading to shadows and damp air. I'd figured it was storage, maybe a busted water heater. Now I wasn't so sure. The kitchen floor groaned under my boots. I set the journal on the counter and opened the basement door. A blast of frigid air rushed up, carrying that rotten stench. Worse here, like spoiled meat left in the sun. The stairs creaked as I descended, flashlight beam bouncing off cracked concrete walls. At the bottom, the basement stretched out, low ceiling, dirt floor, a tangle of cobwebs. Empty, except for one thing, a wooden door set into the far wall, small and warped, with a rusted padlock hanging loose. My heart thudded. This had to be it. Crow's door. The wood was carved with symbols, faint but jagged, matching the ones on the journal's box. I stepped closer, the cold biting through my jacket. The hum I'd heard everywhere else was deafening here, a deep drone that rattled my bones. I touched the padlock. It was icy, slick with condensation, and it fell apart in my hand, crumbling like ash. The door swung open on its own, hinges screaming. Beyond it was darkness, thick and unnatural, swallowing the flashlight's beam. A whisper slithered out, low and guttural. Not words, but a sound that twisted my gut. I stumbled back, hammer raised, but nothing came through. Just a whisper, growing into a chorus. Dozens of voices hissing, overlapping, calling my name. Mark, Mark, Mark. I slammed the door shut, the bang echoing in the basement. The whispers cut off, but the hum stayed, pulsing through the floor. I backed up the stairs, tripping on the last step, and kicked the kitchen door closed, shoving the table against it. My hand shook as I grabbed the journal, flipping to Crow's entries about the door. November 20th, 1951. I found it under the house, a door not built by hands. The book said to seal it with blood, but I used it instead. It opened. They came through. I hear them always now. December 1st. The door won't stay shut. I locked it, but it opens at night. They walk the house, searching. I can't stop them. I dropped the journal, my breath ragged. He let something in, something that was still here. The table scraped an inch across the floor, like something pushing below. I grabbed a hammer and bolted upstairs, locking myself in the bedroom. The house went quiet, but it was a lie. I felt it watching, waiting. That night, the footsteps started again, heavier, closer, right outside my door. The whispers seeped through the walls, chanting my name. I didn't sleep. I just sat there, hammer in hand, staring at the doorknob, praying it wouldn't turn. I couldn't take it anymore. By Thursday morning, I was a wreck, eyes bloodshot, hands jittery from no sleep and too much coffee. The whispers had stopped at dawn, the footsteps fading like they'd never been there. But I knew better. The house wasn't resting. It was toying with me. That door in the basement, Crow's whatever he'd unleashed was real, and it wasn't going away unless I made it. I skipped work again, ignoring Hank's irritated voicemail. I needed a plan. The journal was my only lead. So I spread it out on the bedroom floor, flipping through Crow's madness for anything useful. He'd written about blood sealing the door, then opening it instead. Maybe blood could close it again. It sounded insane, but so did everything else in this hellhole. I grabbed a kitchen knife, a roll of duct tape, and a salt shaker. Something about salt felt right, like a half-remembered ghost story. Downstairs, the house felt heavier, the air thick with that sour rot. The kitchen table still blocked the basement door, but scratches marked the wood, fresh, deep, like claws had raked it overnight. My stomach lurched, but I shoved the table aside and yanked the door open. The cold rushed up, the hum vibrating through my boots. I taped salt along the frame, a shaky line muttering, stay out, like it'd mean something. The basement was darker than before, the flashlight barely cutting through the gloom. The door in the wall stood ajar, a sliver of black peeking out. The whisper started, soft, taunting, weaving my name into their hiss. I gripped the knife, slicing my palm quick and shallow. Blood welled up, hot against the cold. I smeared it on the door's edge, copying Crow's words. Seal it! Shut it! The wood drank the blood, streaks vanishing into the grain. The whispers turned to shrieks, sharp, furious, echoing in my skull. The door slammed shut, the force knocking me back. The hum spiked, a roar that shook the walls, then dropped to silence. I stood there, panting, blood dripping onto the dirt. It worked. Maybe it worked. I climbed back upstairs, taping the kitchen door shut for good measure. The house felt lighter, the cold easing off. I collapsed on the couch, adrenaline crashing, and passed out for the first time in days. I woke to darkness, night, no lights, no sound. My phone was dead again, though I'd charged it. The air was freezing, my breath fogging. Then I felt it, a weight on the couch, pressing the cushions beside me. Slow, Raspy breathing brushed my ear, wet and close. I lunged up, swinging the flashlight, but it wouldn't turn on. The breathing followed, circling me, joined by footsteps, multiple now, thudding upstairs, downstairs, everywhere. The lights flared on, blinding me. Shadows darted across the walls, tall, thin, too many to count. The whispers roared back, a wall of sound screaming my name. Something cold grabbed my ankle, yanking me off my feet. I hit the floor hard, kicking free, and scrambled to the stairs. The shadows stretched, hands clawing from the walls, not touching me but close, too close. I locked myself in the bedroom again, shoving the dresser against the door. The house shook with groaning, glass rattling. The whispers chanted, louder, angrier. You can't. You won't. Ours. The weight hit the bed behind me, sinking the mattress. I spun around. Nothing there but the blanket dented like someone sat invisible. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. The salt, the blood, it hadn't worked. It had pissed them off. Crow hadn't sealed anything. He'd invited them in, and now they wanted me. Friday morning broke gray and bleak, the sky pressing down like a lid. I hadn't moved from the bedroom since the couch, since that weight on the bed, those shadows clawing at me. The dresser still blocked the door, but it didn't matter. The house didn't need doors anymore. The whispers seeped through the walls all night, a constant drone of hours, until they faded at dawn. The cold lingered, though, and that sour smell coated my throat, thick as tar. I was done pretending. This wasn't rats or pipes or my imagination. Crow had opened something alive, hungry, tied to this place. The journal was my only lifeline. So I dragged it out again, hands shaking as I flipped past the blood ritual. Later entries were frantic, barely legible, but one caught my eye, dated December 10th, 1951. The book lied. It's not power, they're parasites. They watch from the walls, waiting for weakness. I carved the sigils to trap them, but they're too strong. The mirror shows them now, black eyes, endless, staring. I can't leave. They won't let me. My gut twisted. Mirrors. I'd avoided the one in the bathroom, cloudy, cracked, hanging crooked. But now I remember the shadow I'd seen in the hallway, the night the lights died. I grabbed the hammer, crept downstairs, and stood in front of it. The glass reflected me, pale, hollow-eyed, but the edges blurred like something pressed against the frame. I squinted. 2 black spots flickered in the corner, small, unblinking. Eyes. I smashed the mirror, glass shattering across the tile. The whispers erupted, a howl that shook the house. Footsteps pounded overhead, fast and chaotic, like a dozen things running at once. I bolted back upstairs, slamming the bedroom door, heart hammering. The eyes weren't gone. I felt them everywhere now, boring into me from the walls, the ceiling, the floor. Crow was right. They watched. I tore through the journal again. He'd mentioned sigils, symbols to trap them. I found a sketch on a torn page, a circle with jagged lines, like the ones on the basement door. He'd carved them to hold them back, but it failed. Maybe I could do it better. I grabbed a knife and started on the bedroom door, gouging the wood, copying the shape. The whispers hissed louder, angrier, as I worked. The air turned frigid, my fingers numb. But I kept going, carving until my hands bled. When I finished, the house went still. No footsteps, no voices, just silence, heavy and wrong. I sat on the bed, knife in my lap, waiting. Minutes stretched into hours. Then it came, a soft tap, tap, tap on the wall behind me. I turned slow, dread pooling in my chest. The paint bulged, splitting into a thin crack. 2 black eyes stared out, glossy and blank, inches from my face. I screamed, lunging off the bed. The crack widened, more eyes blinking open. Dozens crowding the wall, watching me. The whispers roared back, a tidal wave of sound. See you, know you, take you. The sigil on the door glowed faintly, then faded. It wasn't holding them. It was letting them through. I ran downstairs, the eyes following, sprouting in every wall. Kitchen, living room, hallway. The floorboards buckled, cold hands brushing my ankles. I grabbed the journal and my keys, bursting onto the porch. The truck started with a cough, and I peeled out, tires screeching. I didn't stop until I hit the edge of town, shaking, the rear view mirror showing nothing but road. But I felt them, those eyes, still on me, waiting for me to come back. I didn't go far. The truck sputtered to a stop at a gas station on the edge of town, engine coughing like it had given up. I sat there, hands white-knuckled on the wheel, the journal digging into my thigh. The eyes on the walls replayed in my head, black, endless, peeling through the paint like rot. My chest heaved, breath short and ragged. I couldn't go back, but I couldn't stay here either, stranded with nowhere to run. The gas station clerk barely glanced up as I stumbled in, reeking of sweat and fear. I bought a coffee and a charger for my dead phone, plugging it in by the window. The screen flickered to life. 10 missed calls from Hank, a text from Tom. "You okay? Saw your truck peel out." I didn't reply. How do you explain a house full of eyes? I needed help. Mrs. Hargrove knew the rumors. Maybe she knew more. I drove to her place, parking crooked in her driveway. She answered the door in a robe, cane tapping, eyes narrowing at my wild look. "Lord, boy, what's happened?" she said, ushering me in. Her house smelled like lavender and old wood, a stark relief from the sour rot I'd fled. "It's the house?" I blurted, dropping the journal on her table. Crow did something. Rituals, a door. There's things in there. They're after me. She sat slow, peering at the journal's cover. Elias Crow. Knew that name come up. Folks said he went mad, meddling with things best left alone. What did you find? I told her everything. The footsteps, the whispers, the basement door, the eyes. My voice cracked, but I kept going, spilling it all. She listened, face grim, then tapped her cane on the floor. "Sounds like you called something up," she said. "Old tales round here talk of folks dabbling in dark arts, opening doors to places we ain't meant to see. Crow wasn't the first, but he was the loudest. You say it's still there?" "It's not just there," I said. "It's alive. It knows me." She frowned, flipping the journal open. "You tried his sigils?" "Yeah, made it worse. They're breaking through." She sighed heavy. "You can't fight that with salt and knives. Need someone who knows the old ways. There's a woman, Clara, lives out past the mill. Used to help folks with problems like this. Ain't cheap, but she's your best shot." I nodded, grabbing the journal. "Thanks. I'll find her." "Be careful," she called as I left. "That house don't let go easy." Clara's place was a shack off a dirt road, surrounded by gnarled trees. She was old, older than Mrs. Hargrove, wrapped in a shawl, eyes sharp as glass. I showed her the journal, explained it all again. She didn't flinch, just traced the sigils with a bony finger. "Crow was a fool," she rasped. "Open a tear to the other side. Them things, watchers, feeders, latched onto him. Now you, blood woke him up more. Can you stop it?" I asked. "Maybe. Need to see the house. Burn it out. Cost time and coin." "I'll pay," I said, desperate. "Just end it." She nodded, gathering herbs in a leather pouch. "Tomorrow night. Full moon's best. Stay away till then." I agreed, driving to a motel on the highway. The room was cheap, stale, but quiet. I showered, ate, tried to sleep. Then my phone buzzed, a photo from an unknown number. My bedroom, shot from above the bed. The walls were alive, eyes blinking, staring down. Underneath, one word, "Come." I dropped the phone, heart pounding. The house wasn't waiting. It was reaching out. The motel room felt like a cage after that photo. I didn't sleep, just sat on a lumpy bed, staring at my phone. The image burned into my brain. Those eyes on the walls, watching from my own bedroom. Hundreds of them, black and unblinking. The word "come" pulsed in my head like a command. The house wasn't just a building anymore. It was a hunter, and I was prey. I met Clara at dusk, the full moon rising fat and yellow over the trees. She waited outside her shack, a canvas bag slung over her shoulder, her shawl fluttering in the wind. She smelled like sage and earth, her face carved with lines of focus. Ready? She asked, voice gravelly. No, I said, clutching the journal. But let's do it. We drove to Elmwood Street in silence, the truck's headlights slicing through the dark. The house loomed ahead, windows glinting like eyes of their own. The sour smell hit me before I even stepped out, thick and choking. Clara muttered something under her breath, pulling a bundle of dried herbs from her bag. Stay close, she said. Don't touch nothing unless I say. The front door creaked open on its own as we approached, a yawning black mouth. The cold rushed out, wrapping around us, and the hum started, low, insistent, vibrating in my chest. Clara lit the herbs, smoke curling up in sharp twists, and stepped inside. I followed, the floorboards groaning under us. She moved fast, scattering salt in a circle around the living room, chanting words I didn't understand, harsh guttural, like she was spitting them out. The whispers answered, rising from the walls, a chorus of hate. Shadows flickered, stretching long and thin across the room. Clara didn't flinch, just kept going, pulling a vial of dark liquid from her pouch. Crow's door, she snapped. Where? Basement, I said, pointing to the kitchen. The table was gone, the basement door wide open. Scratches gouged deep into the frame. The hum turned to a roar as we descended, Clara's smoke trailing behind. The basement door hung ajar, symbols glowing faintly on the wood. Eyes blinked open in the walls down here, dozens, then hundreds, crowding the concrete, staring. The whispers screamed my name, overlapping, deafening. Clara splashed the liquid, blood, I realized. Onto the door, her chant rising. The eyes widened, the screams peaking, then the door slammed shut, the glow dying. The hum stopped. Silence fell, heavy and sudden. I exhaled, shaky, hope flickering. Done. I asked. She shook her head, grim. Just the start. Gotta burn the root out. Before she could explain, the floor shook, a deep, rolling quake. The walls cracked, eyes bursting through, bigger now, blacker. A shadow loomed behind the door, tall, eyeless, its shape twisting like smoke. Clara cursed, grabbing my arm. Upstairs, now. We ran, the stairs buckling under us. The living room was alive, eyes everywhere, hands clawing from the floorboards, cold fingers snagging my jeans. Clara threw more salt, shouting her chant, but the shadows swelled, merging into one massive form. It spoke, a voice like grinding stone. Mine! The windows shattered inward, glass flying. Clara shoved me toward the door as the thing lunged, its cold slamming into us. We hit the porch, tumbling into the yard. The house groaned, lights flaring, then dying. The shadow filled the doorway. Watching, not following, Clara panted, blood on her lip. It's stronger than I thought. We ain't done. I nodded, terror choking me. The full moon hung overhead, mocking us. The house wasn't letting go. It was winning. We didn't have time to regroup. The air outside the house thickened, the sour stench rolling over us like fog. Clara clutched her bag, herbs and salt spilling onto grass, her face pale under the moonlight. The shadow in the doorway pulsed, growing, its edges fraying into tendrils that snaked toward us. The eyes on the walls blinked in unison, 1,000 black stares pinning me down. Run, Clara yelled, shoving me toward the truck. I stumbled, keys jangling in my hand, but the ground buckled, roots of shadow bursting up, wrapping my ankles. I fell hard, the cold burning through my jeans. Clara swung her pouch, scattering powder that hissed where it hit the tendrils. They recoiled, but only for a second. The shadow roared, a sound like bones snapping, and surged forward, swallowing the porch. I kicked free, scrambling to my feet. Clara grabbed my arm, dragging me back toward the house. Inside, it's tied to the door. We gotta end it there. No way. I started, but she cut me off, her grip iron. Trust me, boy, or we're both dead. The shadow lunged, and we dove through the doorway, hitting the floor as it slammed against the frame, held back by some invisible line. The house shook, walls cracking, eyes bulging out, weeping black ichor. The whispers turned to screams, A deafening wail of mine. Mine! Clara yanked me up, shoving me toward the kitchen. The basement door was open again, the hum of thunderous pulse. We stumbled down, the stairs splintering under us. The shadow followed, pouring through the ceiling, a mass of limbs and eyes and teeth, too big for space. Clara threw her last vial of blood at the basement door, chanting fast, her voice cracking. The door glowed red, then black, and the shadow shrieked, rearing back. I froze as it turned to me. It had no face, just a void where one should be. But I felt it see me, deep personal, like it knew every fear I'd ever buried. The air dropped to ice, my breath stolen. Then it moved, not fast, but deliberate, a hand of shadow reaching out. It brushed my chest, and I felt it weight cold, a pull like it was clawing into my soul. Clara tackled me aside, her chant peaking. The door flared, sucking the shadow in, tendrils thrashing. It fought, clawing the walls, leaving gashes that bled black. The eyes screamed, popping like blisters, and the hum became a wail. Then silence. The door slammed shut, the glow dying. The cold lifted, the smell easing, the house still. I lay there, gasping. Clara slumped beside me. Did it work? I croaked. She nodded, weak. Sealed it. For now. But it's still there, waiting. We crawled upstairs, the house eerily quiet, like it was holding its breath. The walls were bare, the eyes gone, but the scratches remained. The air heavy with something unspoken. Clara limped her bag, muttering, "Gotta burn this place someday." I didn't argue. We staggered to the truck, the moon still glaring down. I drove her home, then hit the highway. No plan, just distance. The rear view showed nothing. No shadows, no eyes. But as I passed the town line, a whisper brushed my ear, faint and clear. Mark. I floored it, heart pounding, knowing it wasn't over. I didn't stop driving until the gas needle kissed empty. Somewhere past the county line where the road stretched flat and endless under a paling sky. The truck coughed to a halt on a gravel shoulder, dawn breaking in streaks of pink and gray. My hand still shook on the wheel, the whisper, "Mark," ringing in my ears like a bell that wouldn't quit. Clara's last words looped too. Sealed it. For now. But now it wasn't enough. I'd left everything in that house. Clothes, furniture, the journal, everything but the keys in my pocket and the dread in my gut. The motel was out. I couldn't face another room, another set of walls that might watch me. I hitched a ride to a diner instead, a greasy spoon buzzing with truckers and early risers. The coffee was burnt, the eggs cold, but it was warm, loud, alive. I sat there for hours, staring at the steam curling off my mug, trying to convince myself it was over. My phone buzzed. Tom again, asking where I'd gone. I typed a lie. Job fell through, moved on. No point in explaining the truth. Who'd believe it? I barely did, and I'd lived it. The shadow's touch still clung to me, a cold spot on my chest that ached when I breathed too deep. I kept my jacket zipped like that and hide it. By noon, I caught a bus heading north. Anywhere but back. The seats smelled like stale cigarettes, and the hum of the engine lulled me into a half-sleep. That's when I heard it again, a faint creak, like floorboards settling. My eyes snapped open, scanning the bus. Nothing, just tired faces, rattling windows, the driver humming off-key. But the sound came again, sharper from under my seat. I shifted, heart kicking up, and caught a whiff of that sour rot, faint but unmistakable. I stood, lurching to the back, ignoring stares. The creak followed, slow and deliberate, a footstep's echo. The cold brushed my neck, a whisper threading to the engine's drone. Ours! I gripped the seat, knuckles white, and checked the windows. Empty road, no shadows, no eyes. But I felt them, distant, patient, waiting. The bus dropped me in a nowhere town, all strip malls and faded signs. I found a cheap room above a bar, paid cash, and locked the door. The walls were thin, stained, but bare, no cracks, no eyes. I sat on the bed, staring at the peeling paint, listening to the jukebox thump below. Sleep tugged at me, but I fought it. Every creak of the building, every gust outside, sounded like the house, its groan, its hum, its voice. Night fell and the bar quieted. I lay down, too exhausted to resist. The mattress sagged, and for a moment it was fine, just silence, my own breathing. Then the weight hit, heavy, sudden, pressing the bed beside me. My eyes flew open. Nothing there, but the blanket dipped, the springs creaked, and that raspy breath brushed my ear. Slow, wet, close. I bolted upright. The room empty but alive with that sour stink. The whisper came again, soft from walls. Mark. I grabbed my jacket and ran, down the stairs, out into the cold night, not stopping until my lungs burned. The street was dead, the wind howling, but I heard it. Footsteps, faint, pacing behind me. I don't know if it's the house or what it woke up. I don't know if it'll follow forever. But as I write this, holed up in another diner with shaky hands and flickering light, I hear it still, a creak, a thud, a whisper in the dark. Someone will move into 17 Elmwood someday. I hope they're braver than me. I hope they don't listen.